I always knew my family wasn't perfect. We had our secrets like any other. But I never thought I was one of them. I'm 24 now, and I live in a modest one-bedroom apartment in Pittsburgh. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I work full-time as a graphic designer and take freelance gigs on the side just to keep my head above water. Rent, groceries, student loans, they all pile up faster than my paycheck can catch them. Still, I've always tried to make it work without asking for help. That's why when Dad invited me to dinner last Friday, I was hesitant. "It's just a casual family thing," he said over the phone. "Your brother and his wife will be there. You haven't been home in a while." He wasn't wrong. I hadn't stepped into my childhood home in nearly 6 months. Not because I didn't miss it, but because it never really felt like mine anymore. Not since everything changed the day I moved out at 18. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something always felt off with them after that. Still, guilt is powerful. So I said yes. I wore my best jeans and a soft green sweater, the one I keep for family dinners and polite events. I even picked up a bottle of wine on the way, hoping it would help smooth over any weirdness. But the weirdness started the moment I walked through the front door. My mom hugged me, tightly, too tightly, and for too long. "You look tired," she said after pulling back. Her eyes scanned my face like she was searching for something. "Are you eating enough?" It was supposed to be caring, I think, but it felt like she was inspecting damage. Then there was my brother, Luke, sitting on the couch with his wife, Tasha, sipping from a crystal glass, looking every bit like the golden child he'd always been. He stood up and gave me a one-armed hug. Tasha barely nodded. "Glad you could make it," he said. But there was no warmth in his voice. No real gladness. We sat down to eat. Mom made her famous roasted chicken, with garlic mashed potatoes and those honey carrots she knew I loved. Everything smelled perfect, looked perfect, felt fake. I was halfway through cutting my chicken when it happened. "So," Dad said, lifting his wine glass, "the money helped, right?" Silence. I froze. Luke coughed into his napkin. Tasha stiffened slightly, but didn't look up. Mom's fork clinked against her plate. I blinked. "What money?" I looked up slowly and locked eyes with my mother. Her face turned pale, then pink, then pale again. Dad looked confused. "The money we gave you. Back in March? You were struggling. Your mom said she transferred you $5,000 to help cover your car repairs and rent." My stomach twisted. There was no $5,000. No car repairs covered. No relief from late fees or final notices. That month, I ate canned soup for 10 days straight and walked to work in the snow when my car broke down because I couldn't afford the repairs. "I never got any money," I said, slowly. You could hear a pin drop. Mom's hand gripped her napkin so hard it crumpled. Dad turned to her. "What do you mean she didn't get it?" I must have messed up the transfer," she stammered. "Or maybe it bounced back. You know how those things work." "No, you told me you did it while we were in Florida," he said. "You showed me the receipt." My mind was racing. My hands were trembling in my lap. Mom looked at me. "Sweetheart, are you sure? Maybe you forgot. You've been under a lot of stress." My breath caught. I forgot? I forgot $5,000, Mom. I wasn't yelling, but my voice was sharp. Louder than I'd meant it to be. Luke cleared his throat. "Maybe this isn't the time." "Actually," I snapped. "Maybe it is the time." The room held its breath. Because I wasn't just remembering March. I was remembering all the times I called her crying. All the nights I debated selling my laptop just to pay rent. I remembered telling her everything. And every time, she'd say things like, "You're strong. You'll figure it out. We can't always bail you out, honey." I believed her. Because she made me feel like I was a burden for even asking. But now I see the truth clear as glass. My mom took that money. She let me suffer, while she smiled and lied through her teeth. Dad pushed his chair back and stood up. "We'll talk about this in private." But it was too late for private. The illusion was broken. The dinner was ruined. I stood up too. "No. I think I'm gonna go." "Wait," Mom said, reaching for me. Her face was tight with panic. "Let's not do this now." I stepped back. You did this. Not me. Luke looked like he wanted to disappear. Tasha kept her eyes on her plate. I grabbed my coat, heart thundering in my chest. As I walked out the door, I heard my dad say softly, "Linda, what the hell did you do?" Outside, the cold air hit me like a slap. But it felt better than the heat of that room. The heat of betrayal. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. Not crying. Just stunned. I always knew something wasn't right between me and my mom. That she treated me differently. That I had to work twice as hard for half the love Luke got without asking. But I never imagined she'd take something like that. It wasn't just the money. It was what it meant. She didn't believe I was worth helping, even when she could. And she let me think I was just too much to ask for support. That kind of betrayal doesn't come with a neat apology. And honestly, I didn't want one. I just wanted the truth. And now that I had it, I couldn't unsee it. I went home that night and sat on my mattress, still on the floor, still unboxed. My stomach twisted with hunger, but I couldn't eat. I opened my laptop and pulled up my messages with my mom. Scrolling back, I found the one from March. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I wish we could help, but money's tight with the Florida trip and all. We believe in you." Believed in me? She had the money in her hands. She just gave it to Luke instead. I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about what happened. The way Dad's face shifted when I said, "What money?" The shock. The disbelief. But most of all, the shame in Mom's eyes. Because she knew exactly what she'd done. And now, for the first time in my life, so did I. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a single, burning thought. I'm done pretending this is normal. No more brushing it off. No more letting it slide just because she's Mom. She had lied. She had stolen. And she had let me drown quietly, while she handed my life raft to my brother and told me to stay strong. So, I did the one thing I knew she'd hate. I called my dad. His voice was flat when he picked up. "Hi." "Hey," I said, my voice a little hoarse. "Do you have a minute?" There was a pause. "Yeah. I was going to call you later. I just needed to think." "Me too." I took a breath. "So, did she ever really send the money? Or was it just a story?" Another pause. Then, "No. She didn't send it. She gave it to Luke." Silence. I closed my eyes. "She told you it was for me?" "Yes." "And you believed her?" "I did." He didn't even sound defensive. Just tired. Beaten. Like a man who finally looked behind the curtain and didn't like what he saw. "She told me you were embarrassed to admit you needed help," he continued. "Said you didn't want anyone to know, so we should just send it quietly." I even remember her showing me a screenshot of a transfer. That part made my blood go cold. "She faked a screenshot?" I asked. He sighed. "I think so." There it was. Proof that this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mix-up or forgetfulness or even guilt avoidance. It was calculated. She wanted to help Luke, but she didn't want to tell me the truth. So she created a whole alternate reality, one where she looked like the caring mother, and I looked like the weak daughter too ashamed to say thank you. That's next-level cruelty. "I just don't get it," I whispered. "What did I do to deserve this?" "I don't know," he said, quieter. "But I promise you, I didn't know until last night." And I believed him. Not because he was perfect, but because he looked just as blindsided as I felt. "I'm sorry," he added. "I really am." That apology? I didn't expect it, but I needed it. More than I realized. Over the next few days, everything started unraveling. Dad and I didn't talk again right away, but he sent me a short text. I checked. That wasn't the only time. And then another. "She's been giving him money for years. Quietly. A lot. It was worse than I thought." Apparently, while I was picking up extra shifts and skipping meals, my mom was sliding money to Luke to cover his gym membership, car insurance, and even a down payment on the house he now owned with his wife. The house I once helped clean when we were kids. The house they bought while I was dodging overdraft fees. Dad eventually admitted that he started noticing discrepancies in their finances a while back, but he trusted Mom to handle it. She was better with money, he always said. Now he was questioning everything. And so was I. Because the betrayal wasn't just in the dollars. It was in the years. Years of favoritism disguised as fairness. Years of her calling me independent while calling Luke just a little lost. Years of me being told to stand on my own while he was being carried. It all made sense now. I didn't speak to my mom for a week. No texts. No calls. She didn't reach out either, which said a lot. But then on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. A short message lit up the screen. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part of me wanted answers. I finally typed back. "Only if it's honest." She responded. "Come by this evening. Just you and me." So I went. Not because I forgave her, but because I needed to see the truth in her eyes. When I walked in, the house smelled like lemon cleaner. A peace offering, maybe. She'd baked banana bread, the way she always did when she wanted things to feel normal. She was waiting in the kitchen. Alone. I noticed her hands were trembling.
"Hi," she said.
I just nodded and sat down. She didn't waste time. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For everything." My jaw clenched. "I don't need a performance, Mom," I said. "I need to understand why." She looked down at her lap. "Because Luke needed help. And I didn't." I snapped. "You're stronger." That broke something in me. "Stronger?" I repeated. "Is that what you tell yourself when you ignore my tears? When you listen to me cry about losing my job or not being able to fix my car, and you just let me?" "I thought I was teaching you to be self-reliant," she whispered. "No," I said, standing up, shaking. "You were teaching me that your help is conditional. That love is something I have to earn, while Luke just gets it no matter what." She looked up at me, tears brimming in her eyes.
"I was wrong," she said.
"I see that now." I wanted to believe her. But apologies don't erase pain. "Why didn't you tell Dad the truth?" Her face flushed. "Because I knew he wouldn't agree. And because I was ashamed."
Shame.
That was new. But it still didn't fix anything. I looked her dead in the eye. "I struggled for years, Mom. And you let me, while you played favorites and made me feel crazy for noticing." "I know," she whispered. "And I'm sorry." I nodded. Then I walked out, not slamming the door, not yelling. Just walking away. Because sometimes, walking away is the only form of dignity you have left. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't anger keeping me up. It was clarity. I knew where I stood. I knew what I'd survived. And I knew what kind of future I wanted. One where I didn't need crumbs from a family table that never had a seat for me. They say once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. That's exactly how it feels now. The curtain has been pulled back, and I can't pretend anymore. Not for their comfort, not for family dinners, not even for my own peace. Because peace built on silence isn't peace. It's surrender. And I've done enough of that already. The thing is, once you stop chasing approval from people who keep moving the finish line, you finally realize how much you've lost trying to earn what should have been freely given.
Love.
Support. Respect. I woke up the next morning with a strange kind of resolve in my chest, like something inside me had crystallized overnight. Not bitterness. Not even rage.
Just done.
Done playing nice. Done pretending everything's okay. Done swallowing pain like pills and calling it gratitude. I open my laptop and go to my email. There's one message sitting there unread. Subject: bank transfer confirmation.
From Dad.
I click it. It's a record of a direct deposit, $15,000. My breath catches in my throat. There's no message. No explanation. Just the transfer and his name on the sender line. $15,000. It's not a magic fix, but it's acknowledgement. A breadcrumb of fairness in a forest of favoritism. And just beneath it, another email pops in. This one's from my mom. Subject: please don't shut me out. I don't open it. Not yet. I call my best friend Julia that afternoon. She's one of the few people who knows the real version of my family, the one without the perfect Christmas cards and Instagram filters. You should use that money for you, she says after I explain what Dad sent. Something that makes you feel in control again. I nod, even though she can't see me. I was thinking about going back to school, I say. She squeals.
Yes.
That's it. That's exactly what they don't expect. You leveling up. It makes me laugh, even though I feel the familiar sting in my chest. Because she's right. My parents spent so long investing in Luke.
Literally.
Tuition.
Housing.
Even helping him open a business that he closed 2 years later.
Me?
I got a pat on the back and a recycled graduation dress. If I go back to school, it won't be for them. It'll be for me. Later that week, I do something that would have terrified me a year ago. I tell my boss I'm cutting back to part-time. Not quitting, but making room for myself, for my future, for growth. I've worked in this office for 3 years, and not once have I asked for anything. No raise. No flexibility. Just yes after yes after yes. He's surprised. But he doesn't argue. Ambitious, he says. I respect that. Funny. That's not what my mom would have called it. She would have called it selfish. Impulsive. Ungrateful. But those words don't stick to me anymore.
Not like they used to.
2 days later, I finally open her email. I know I messed up. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but please don't shut me out. Families make mistakes. We can fix this. The message is short.
Polished.
Like she rehearsed it 5 times before typing it. I reread it twice. There's no mention of what exactly she did. No admission. No detail. It's a classic move. Skip over the wrongdoing and jump straight to the healing. But healing doesn't work like that. Not when the wound is still raw. The next time I see her is by accident. I'm coming out of the bank, handling some paperwork for a scholarship I applied for, when I see her across the street. She's getting out of her car with a paper bag of takeout in her arms. Probably picking up dinner for Dad.
She always picks up dinner now. Keeps herself busy.
She sees me, and for a moment, I think she might wave. But she doesn't. She just pauses. Then walks into the building without looking back. And strangely, I don't feel hurt. I feel free. Julia comes over that night with ice cream and a stack of business school brochures. You're really doing it, huh? She says, grinning. Yeah. I smile. I'm done waiting for them to believe in me. She nods. You don't need them to. You've got you. It's the simplest truth, but one I've spent years forgetting. About a week later, something strange happens. I get a call from Luke.
Yup. Luke.
The golden boy. The favorite. The guy who got tens of thousands from my parents while I sold my own jewelry to cover rent. At first, I almost don't answer. But curiosity wins. Hey, he says, voice awkward. Hi. I say flat. I wanted to talk. I wait. I didn't know, he blurts. About the money.
I swear. I thought it was from Dad.
I didn't know she told you something else. I don't say anything. He keeps going. She just said it was family support. That you didn't want anything. That you were proud. I blink. That lie again. That word again, proud. I never said that. I reply. Not once. I believe you, he says quickly. I was stupid. I didn't ask questions. I should've. I'm sorry.
He sounds genuine.
But apologies from people who benefited from your silence always come too late. Still, I say, thanks for calling. He lets out a breath. Are we okay? I pause. No, I say honestly. But we're not enemies either. Silence. Then, that's fair. The next time I see my parents, it's by my choice. I'm the one who initiates it. I invite them to my apartment. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. Paid for with my money, my sacrifices, my work. They sit across from me on the couch, both looking older than I remember. I don't cry. I don't yell. I just tell the truth. I tell them how it felt to watch my brother soar while I scraped by. How it felt to be praised for surviving while he was rewarded for stumbling. How it felt to be forgotten. Dad listens. Mom tries to explain, but I stop her. I'm not here to rehash it, I say. I'm here to draw a line. And then I do. Clear boundaries. Clear expectations. Clear consequences.
This is who I am now.
Not the daughter who begs. Not the sister who stays silent. Not the girl who pretends her crumbs are cake. I'm rebuilding. And this time, I'm not leaving the blueprint in someone else's hands. There's this strange silence that comes after you speak your truth, like the world takes a deep breath before deciding what to do with it. That's how it feels after I set my boundaries with my parents. I thought I'd feel lighter, relieved, unburdened. Instead, I feel like I'm standing on a cliff, alone, wind howling around me, and the ground behind me is crumbling.
There's no going back.
But maybe that's the point. Maybe the girl I was before, quiet, obedient, waiting for scraps, needs to fall away, so something stronger can rise. It's been 3 weeks since I told my parents exactly how I felt, how their choices broke me in ways I'm still patching up. 3 weeks since I stood in my living room, heart racing, and made it clear, I'm not their emotional punching bag, or their leftover child, or the daughter who silently makes do while her brother is handed the world. Since then, nothing. No calls. No messages. Not even an email from Mom, which is her go-to method of apologizing without really apologizing. I check my inbox more often than I care to admit. But it stays empty. And I realize something I didn't expect. They're not used to being held accountable. They're used to me folding. So when I didn't, they just retreated. Julia notices the change in me before I even say a word. "You're quieter," she says one afternoon as we sip iced coffees in my kitchen. But not in a sad way. More like calm. I nod. It's weird. I keep waiting to feel guilt. But I don't. Not this time. She smirks. "That's because you finally stopped letting guilt be your love language." That hits harder than I expect. Because for so long, I equated love with endurance. If I stayed, they'd love me. If I forgave, they'd change. If I stayed quiet, they'd see my worth. But none of that ever worked. The money Dad sent sits untouched in a separate savings account. It's not revenge. It's just clarity. That money isn't a solution. It's a symbol of what I should have had all along. And maybe someday, I'll use it for something that truly honors me, not just survival, but growth. But for now, it waits. Just like me. One Thursday morning, I get a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something tells me to answer. "Hello. Is this Alina Reynolds?" A man's voice asks.
Yes.
"Who's calling?" "This is Attorney Marcus Page. I'm calling regarding an inquiry you submitted about your family's estate finances." My stomach drops. A while back, quietly, with no fanfare, I'd filed a request for financial transparency regarding the trust my parents supposedly couldn't access anymore. Something about the numbers just didn't sit right. The way they cried poor to me, then bought Luke a new truck last Christmas. The way Dad said, "We don't have much left," while they were vacationing in Aspen. I wasn't trying to start a war. I just wanted the truth. "I've reviewed the documents you requested," Marcus says. "And you're going to want to see them for yourself." We meet at his office that Saturday. He's kind, matter-of-fact, professional. He slides a folder across the desk. "Your parents have 2 active accounts in the Reynolds Family Trust. One was tapped for Luke's business loan. The other, nearly $250,000, has been untouched for years." I blink. "What?" He nods. "There's no restriction on those funds. No legal barriers. If they told you the trust was frozen, they weren't being honest." I grip the folder so tightly my fingers ache. $250,000. That's what they claimed didn't exist. That's what they hid, while I maxed out credit cards for groceries and took double shifts just to stay afloat. "They set it aside for emergencies," Marcus adds. "But what qualifies as an emergency is up to the trustees." "Which are my parents," I whisper.
He nods again.
I feel like I've been punched in the chest. That night, I don't cry. I don't scream. I research. Because truth without action is just a wound. So I read. I call friends. I talk to 2 more lawyers. I learn everything I can about beneficiaries, trust disbursements, and my rights. And I find something very interesting. My grandparents, the original founders of the trust, set it up with me as a partial beneficiary.
Me.
Not just Luke.
Me.
That money? It's not a favor. It's not charity. It's mine. Or, at least, part of it is. They just never told me. Because if I didn't know, I wouldn't ask. And if I didn't ask, they wouldn't have to share. I don't sleep that night. But I do make a decision.
This ends now.
2 weeks later, I sit across from my parents again. Only this time, we're not in my apartment. We're in a lawyer's office. Their faces are pale when they walk in and see me already seated. "Alina," Mom says, voice strained. "What is this?" I gesture to the folder on the table. "You told me the trust was locked. You told me there was nothing left for me." Dad's jaw tightens. "It was complicated." "No." I cut him off. "It was convenient." He glares at the lawyer. "We weren't expecting legal threats from our own daughter." I smile, cool, calm, razor sharp. "I'm not threatening you," I say. "I'm protecting myself." The room is tense, but I've never felt stronger. "I'm not here to beg," I continue. "I'm here to make sure what belongs to me doesn't disappear behind closed doors." Mom's eyes well up. "Alina, we love you. You love control," I say. "This isn't about love. It's about respect. And I'm done pretending you gave me any." By the end of that meeting, 2 things are clear. 1. I'm entitled to a percentage of the untouched trust, enough to pay off my debt, finish school, and buy a home of my own. 2. My parents don't see me the same anymore. And maybe that's okay, because I don't see them the same either. Outside the office, I take a deep breath. The air smells different. Cleaner. Lighter. Like possibility. A few days later, Luke texts me. "Heard about the trust. They should have told you."
I'm sorry again.
I type a reply. "Thanks. I'm moving forward now. I hope you are too." He hearts the message. It's not reconciliation, but it's something. Maybe the start of 2 siblings growing up outside the shadow of their parents' favoritism. Maybe. I use the money to pay off every last debt I have. Then I enroll in the grad program I've dreamed of since college. When I walk into that first class, books in my bag, hair pulled back, heart steady, I don't feel small. I feel right, like I belong. And for the first time in my life, I don't owe that feeling to anyone but myself. They say healing isn't linear, that it doesn't happen in big grand moments, but in the quiet ones, when no one's watching. And they're right, because for the first time in my life, I'm waking up not in fear of the next guilt trip, the next manipulative phone call, the next favor disguised as love. I'm waking up for me, and I'm not going back. Grad school isn't easy. Balancing classes with freelance work, keeping up with readings, showing up in rooms where I'm often the quietest voice, it's exhausting. But it's mine. This dream, this life, this version of me, it's not one my parents made for me. It's not one they approved of or financed or planned. It's one I carved out with bruised hands and tired feet. And for the first time, I don't need their applause to keep going. But just when I start to feel stable, they come back. Not with flowers. Not with apologies. With paperwork. A summons, hand-delivered to my apartment by a process server. I stare at the envelope in disbelief. A formal request from my parents to freeze the portion of the trust one legally claimed. They're alleging misuse of family resources and request a hold for investigation.
They want to scare me.
They want me to back off. But they've clearly forgotten who I've become. I call Marcus, my lawyer. He reads through the paperwork calmly, then leans back in his chair. "This is baseless," he says. "And desperate." I nod, but my stomach twists. They really want to drag this out? Marcus shrugs. They're banking on intimidation. They assume you'll get tired or scared or poor enough to stop. He slides the papers back toward me. "But you're not the same girl who sat here the first time."
He's right.
I'm not. So we fight back. We file a countersuit. We bring receipts. Marcus and I gather every email, every screenshot, Every recorded conversation and bank statement that shows years of favoritism, lies, and manipulation. And then we show how I only ever claimed what was already mine. It's brutal. It's humiliating. Not for me, for them. Because now the truth is on record. Not whispered at family dinners or hidden in text threads, but printed,
Documented.
filed in court. Word gets out. We live in a small enough town that people talk. At the grocery store, I overhear two women whispering my parents' names. At the library, someone gives me a sympathetic smile. At school, one of my professors pulls me aside. "I saw the article," she says gently. "That's heavy. If you need an extension on your paper, just ask." I thank her, stunned. Turns out, when you stop hiding what was done to you, people see you differently. Not as broken, but as brave. Then something unexpected happens. Luke shows up. At my apartment. On a rainy Wednesday. I open the door, and he's standing there, hoodie-soaked, eyes tired. "I read the depositions," he says. "I didn't know it was this bad." I say nothing. He steps inside, slowly. "I knew they were unfair, but I thought it was just the usual stuff. I didn't realize they tried to erase you." His voice cracks. "I thought you were just being dramatic. I didn't know they were threatening you behind the scenes, controlling you, using money to manipulate you." Still, I say nothing, because I don't know what to say yet. Then he looks up. I'm withdrawing from their side of the suit. That gets my attention. What? I don't want anything from the trust anymore. I already got more than I deserved. I want to be your brother again. We sit on the couch for a long time. He tells me about therapy, about how he started going after our last blow-up, about how our parents still try to control him, but he's waking up now. "I see it now," he whispers. "How they treat love like currency. How they expect loyalty in exchange for silence." He pauses. "You broke the cycle. I want to too. I don't know what healing looks like between us, but this feels like a start." 2 weeks later, my parents drop the suit. Not out of kindness. Out of exposure. They realize they can't keep the narrative clean anymore. Not with Luke stepping away. Not with court records accessible. Not with me standing up. The official ruling comes in a thin envelope. My portion of the trust is secured. Irrevocably mine. The case is closed. But something else is just beginning. I take the money and buy a small townhouse outside the city. Nothing flashy. Just safe. There's a little backyard and a tiny kitchen and a reading nook by the window. The first time I unlock the door and step inside, I burst into tears. Because for the first time, I have a space no one can take from me. No strings. No conditions. No emotional toll. Just mine. On moving day, Julia helps me unpack. She's holding a box labeled kitchen when she glances around the living room. "This feels different," she says. "How so?" She smiles. "Last time, you were escaping. This time, you're arriving." I nod. Because she's right. This isn't just a new chapter. It's a new book entirely. I still get the occasional call from Mom. Voicemails, mostly. Tearful. Begging me to talk. Promising, "We didn't mean to hurt you." But they never say sorry. Not really. And I've learned to let silence be my answer. Because sometimes, no response is louder than any scream. Luke and I meet once a month now. Coffee shops, walks, game nights. We don't talk about everything, but we talk. And for now, that's enough. He respects my boundaries. I respect his effort. That's all I ever wanted. Not perfection. Just truth. One morning, I wake up to the sound of birds outside my window. I pour myself coffee in a mug I bought, not a hand-me-down, not a leftover. I sit in my reading nook, sun spilling over the pages of a book I chose for myself. And I smile, not because everything is perfect, but because I'm free, because I fought for something no one ever handed me. And I won. They used to call me ungrateful, selfish,
Dramatic.
a disappointment. And for a long time, I believed them.
But now?
I know better, because what they called disobedience was actually self-respect. And what they called betrayal was just me finally saying no. I don't hear from them for weeks. Not after they dropped the lawsuit. Not after Luke pulled out of the trust battle and made his quiet peace with the truth. It's like I vanished from their radar. And for once, that's a blessing. No messages. No guilt. No sudden knocks at my door with false smiles and hidden motives. Just silence. A silence I earned with scars and boundaries they can't touch. Then one afternoon, I'm on campus, heading out of the student center with a half-empty coffee, when I spot someone waiting near the bike rack. My heart skips. It's Mom. Not dolled up like usual. No pearls, no perfect curls. Just tired.
Worn.
Like someone who's finally realized the games are over and she's lost the last hand. She sees me and stands straight, nervously clutching her purse. Can we talk? I hesitate. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm calm. And for once, she looks unsure. We sit on a bench near the fountain. I keep my arms crossed. She fidgets with her wedding ring. I didn't know he had the check from you, she says quietly. I say nothing. I was told it went through, that you cashed it. Your father said you were just ignoring us. My throat tightens. That's not an excuse.
She nods slowly.
It's not. Then she does something I never thought I'd see. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a photograph. It's old. Faded. I instantly recognize it. It's me, age 12, standing in front of my science fair project. Beaming. Holding a plastic trophy. My first one. She sets the photo in my lap. I was proud of you, she whispers. Even if I didn't always show it. A breeze passes between us. My eyes sting. Why didn't you say it then? She looks down. Because I thought if I praised you too much, you'd stop trying. That you'd stop chasing more. I didn't want you to get comfortable. She shrugs, like it makes sense. Like conditioning your daughter to believe her worth depends on exhaustion is somehow love. I don't raise my voice. I don't cry. I just shake my head. I was a child. I didn't need pressure. I needed parents. She wipes her eyes. I know. It's not an apology. But it's more than I've ever gotten. We don't hug. We don't suddenly become close again. We don't fix decades of manipulation in a single conversation. But I stand up and hand her back the photo. And I say, I'm not angry anymore. But I'm also not coming back. She nods. And for the first time, she doesn't argue. She just lets me go. That night, I sleep better than I have in years. A few days later, Luke sends me a text. You free Saturday? Dad's retirement party. I'm not going. Thought maybe we could grab pizza instead. I laugh. A year ago, missing Dad's retirement would have been a scandal.
Now?
It's just Saturday. We meet at a quiet hole-in-the-wall pizza joint, the kind with mismatched chairs and napkins that double as paper towels. Luke orders pineapple on his half. I make a face. He smirks. You used to love it. I was 12. I also liked glitter pens and Jonas Brothers. We laugh, really laugh, for the first time in forever. Then Luke grows quiet. Do you think they'll ever change? I shrug. Maybe. But I don't need them to anymore. He nods slowly. I think I'm getting there too. After dinner, we walk around the block. The air is crisp. Fall is creeping in. Leaves scatter across the sidewalk like old chapters turning. Luke kicks at a pile of orange ones and says, You're really doing it, huh? The life. The career. The peace. I smile.
Yeah.
Finally. He pauses, then reaches into his jacket pocket. Pulls out a crumpled envelope. I was cleaning out some stuff and found this. Figured you should have it. I take it confused. Inside is a birthday card. From 3 years ago. Unopened. Unsent. Addressed to me. I open it carefully. The handwriting is unmistakably Dad's. Inside, there's a check. Dated the same month I moved out. Made out to me for $10,000. Tears blur my vision. Luke's voice is soft. He never gave it to you. Said you had to learn the hard way. I only found it last week. Hidden in his office drawer. I press the card to my chest. Not for the money. For the proof. that I wasn't crazy, that they really did hold love and help hostage, that everything I fought to reclaim wasn't imagined. I walk home in a daze.
I don't keep the check.
I rip it up and toss it in the trash. Because I don't need their guilt money. Not anymore. I've paid my own way. In pain. In therapy. In healing. And I've come out richer than they'll ever understand. That weekend, I update my resume. And then, I hit submit on a dream job. One I never felt worthy of before.
But now?
Now I know I am.
I'm not the black sheep.
I'm the one who got out. And no amount of gaslighting, guilt, or glittery family photos can rewrite that. You'd think I'd feel triumphant. That walking away from the wreckage would taste like justice. But the truth is, real healing doesn't come with a parade. It comes with quiet mornings. Waking up and not checking your phone in dread. Breathing without second-guessing whether you deserve peace. That's where I am now. In the quiet. And for the first time, I'm not scared of it. It's been 4 months since that family dinner exploded into revelation. Since I stood up, shaking with rage, and said the words that finally set me free. What money? Since I saw Mom's face drop, the lie exposed. Since Dad's slap rang across the room like a closing gavel. I've rebuilt a lot in those 4 months. Not just my finances, but my sense of self. And then, just as things begin to steady, an envelope arrives in the mail.
Thick.
Cream-colored. Expensive-looking. My stomach drops when I see the return address. Law offices of Carson and Lowell. I tear it open slowly. Inside is a letter. And a copy of a revised will. From my grandfather. Turns out, my father wasn't the only one hiding something. My grandfather, Mom's dad, had quietly made amendments before he passed. Apparently, he'd seen enough in his final years to change course. The original will split everything evenly between my mom and her 2 siblings. But this revised version? It names me as the sole beneficiary of his lake house. His prized cabin in Vermont, the one I visited every summer as a kid. The place where I first learned how to read under that creaky porch swing. Where Grandpa taught me to skip stones and pick blackberries without thorns. The letter says he left it to me for being the only one who ever listened. I stare at the words, stunned. Mom never told me. No one did. And now that I think about it, I remember how the family suddenly stopped talking about the cabin last year. How they said it was under renovations. How they brushed off my questions about summer plans. I thought they'd just lost interest. Turns out, they were waiting for a different outcome. One where I stayed exiled. Powerless. Grateful for scraps. But Grandpa had other plans.
I visit the lake house that weekend.
Alone. The drive takes 6 hours. I barely sleep the night before. But when I step onto the gravel driveway and see the porch, still leaning, still charming, I feel something deep in my chest unlock. It smells like cedar and old books. Just like I remembered. I walk through the front door, fingers brushing the wooden railing, the wall where Grandpa used to hang his fishing hats, the fireplace where we'd roast marshmallows even in July. It's not just a house. It's memory. And now it's mine. I sit on the porch with a mug of coffee, wrapped in a thick wool sweater. The air is cool, mist curling off the lake. And I think about how far I've come. About how, for so long, I bet myself into pieces trying to belong to people who only loved the version of me that served them, who raised me on shame and control and called it tough love. But Grandpa saw me. He always did, even when I didn't see myself. 2 weeks later, I get a call. It's my aunt, one of Mom's sisters. Her voice is tight. So, I assume you know. I don't say anything. She continues. I just think it's interesting that a child, not an heir, walks away with the most valuable asset. I almost laugh. This house? It's not a bank account. It's not some portfolio trophy. It's a home. One built with stories and silence and survival. I guess Grandpa made his choice, I say gently. She hangs up. The next call comes from Mom. Her voice is shaky. Are you really keeping it? I pause. Yes.
She sighs.
I just thought maybe we could go up together. Like old times. There's a pause. I could bring Dad. I almost dropped the phone. After everything, she thinks we'd roast marshmallows together again? I let the silence sit until it stings. Mom, I say, this place was always a safe haven. I'm not turning it into a negotiation table. She's quiet. Then whispers, I just miss you. And for a moment I soften. Until I remember all the times she didn't miss me when it mattered. When I cried myself to sleep. When they stole from me. When they called me dramatic instead of honest. I end the call with something I never thought I'd say. I wish you peace, Mom. But I won't sacrifice mine to give it to you. I decide to make the lake house mine in more than just name. I repaint the porch. Fix the broken screen door. Put up photos, my photos. Not their curated family portraits, but real snapshots of friends who've become family. Of me, smiling with no fear behind my eyes. And right above the fireplace, I hang a framed copy of the letter Grandpa left me. So I never forget. So I never doubt again. By winter, I'm spending every other weekend here. It becomes a ritual. My reset button. And one snowy night, sitting by the fire with a journal in my lap, I get an idea. A memoir. Not a tell-all. A truth-all. Something raw and real about generational guilt, emotional theft, and reclaiming peace. I write the first chapter right then and there. They said I was ungrateful, but I was just finally hungry for the love they never offered. The book gets picked up by a small publisher in the spring. I call it the gift they tried to steal. Because that's what this whole journey was. A gift of selfhood. Of perspective. Of finally realizing that I don't owe silence to the people who hurt me just because they share my DNA. Mom doesn't attend the book launch. Dad doesn't send a word. But Luke is there, front row, wearing a hoodie with a cover printed on the back. He hugs me and whispers, "You didn't just survive. You rewrote the legacy." And I did. I stopped waiting for an apology. Stopped proving I was worthy. Stopped begging to sit at tables that only served guilt. Instead, I built my own table. And I filled the chairs with people who never once asked me to shrink.
So no.
I'm not bitter. I'm just done being quiet. They kept the check. They hoarded the love. They bruised me and told the world I fell on my own. But I stood up anyway.
And now?
Now I own the house. I own the truth. I own me.